Hey, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday's LinkedIn Live. I went ahead and put Kay's website in the chat before I forget. Kay Coughlin is my special guest today, and I'm so excited. If you're new to this live and don't know who I am, I'm Allison Henderson, and my company, as you can see there, is Moving Image Consulting. I do nonverbal communication work with teams and individuals. So we always talk on our lives about the body-brain connection, what's happening with our body language and what that's doing to our brain and vice versa. Today, we are going to be talking about the possibility mindset, which is why I asked Kay to join me today. She had a wonderful newsletter that came out a couple weeks ago that talked about possibilities and how we should be having possibilities. And I was like, wow, that totally fits in with what we've been talking about. If you've been following along, we talked about focus and purpose. We have talked about momentum in your business. We're talking about possibilities. My goal is to sort of make a 6-week cycle of things that kind of go together. And I'm totally distracted right now because I'm getting a message saying that they're having problems with LinkedIn right now. So you see this on Facebook or YouTube. Let me read real quick. Please check LinkedIn to ensure the stream looks okay. All right. Well, apparently I have to go.
Do you want me to check it?
You know what? I'm just going into post. How would I know?
While you're doing that, why don't I put the link to that message you just mentioned? I can put that in the comments. I think you have to open the comments, though. I don't think I can comment.
Okay. Can't post the comments in some destinations. So I need to somehow add you to the comments. You can tell she's our first guest.
You do your technical stuff.
I don't know. Show. Yeah, it's not coming up as LinkedIn. So I don't think we're live on LinkedIn, but we're definitely live on Facebook and YouTube.
Okay.
So that is weird. I private chat. You're right. You private chatted to me, but I don't see
I'm going to put that link in private chat. If you want to, you can post it into the comments. Okay.
Yeah.
No worries. I will watch the comments, but I won't try to be in them. Okay.
Yep. How do I get out of private chat now? Comments. There we go. Let's try to.
So while Allison is doing all of this technical stuff, if you didn't pick it up in the advertising that Allison put together, we have known each other for 30 years. So if it seems to you like we are insanely comfortable with having technical difficulties, let's just say we are.
We totally are. In fact, Kay and I used to, back in the day, talk about undergrad. We were undergrads together in college, and we were theater majors together, no less. And Kay was in charge of the student light crew, and we would be hanging lights in the theaters till midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Not sure whether that's allowed even anymore with how things have gone. They probably do things totally different now, but we used to be, no supervision, up walking catwalks and hanging off of things in very dangerous situations. So we definitely are very comfortable with one another, and we've been staying in touch all through this time. So luckily, I always take our downloads and chunk it into really juicy bits, and I can certainly still send the download out, even if it's not necessarily working on LinkedIn right at the moment. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be coming up. So anywho, this company is Facilitator on Fire, and she focuses right now on providing for caregivers, which is a fantastic coaching niche to be in, because we're all caregivers, whether we realize it or not. Even if we are just in charge of ourselves right now, particularly during the pandemic. The self-care is still a really big thing. I know if I don't manage to do some kind of, exercise a couple times a week or something, I'm an absolute grouchy bear. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about your business, and then we'll gear over into the possibility mindset.
So my focus is on helping generations build trust together, whether that's at home or at work. If it's at the workplace, I have a seminar that I do called Building Trust Across Generations. And when I'm working with people at home, that is with family caregivers. And what I've discovered, so I am a family caregiver. My mother lives in an attached flat next to our house here. And what I learned about being a caregiver is that we all sort of step into a story that kind of is written for us. And it seems like there's these rigid rules and very rigid character profiles. You can see my theater background coming out here. But what it means is that as caregivers, we often feel like we don't have any choices. That's where the possibility mindset came from, because what I realized from my work on myself, as well as with my clients, it's very easy to feel stuck because you literally can't see any other possibility. And that's where my possibility mindset work came from, is making sure that all of my clients understand that there's more out there that they could see if we could remember to look for it.
That really is the crux of it, right? To take that step back and get some perspective, which is the same thing that I'm always working with my clients on in the moment, to have them take that step back and broaden their view. What is actually happening in the room? What's happening with the energy? What's happening with the body language that you're taking in? Because that mindset and the brain side of things that we always talk about, that brain is constantly reading that body language and is making decisions for us that can take things the wrong way sometimes. And
well, our brains like to take the easy way out. It conserves calories to go on the path that it's always known. And whether it's interpreting someone's body language, or especially in family dynamics, thinking that there's only one way to interact with your mom, or one way to interact with your sister, or one way for everyone to react when your auntie calls and throws whatever kind of a wrench in the works always happens. Our brains like it to be easy. And so we repeat patterns. That's what patterns and habits are all about. It's all about conserving calories. And interestingly, though, that part of the brain that really likes the habits and patterns because it's easy, doesn't care if we're happy, doesn't care if we're fulfilled, doesn't care if we're finding meaning in our lives. And so that's what I would call the reaction part of your brain. Your brain is reacting. And the trick is to get your brain to go up into cognition, to think about something, to do something else deliberately. And in this case, it's to say, what else could be possible here?
do you suggest for clients to put notes to themselves, to remind themselves, or to have a mental checklist of things that they go through? I often will tell my clients, particularly in the virtual world, to put little sticky notes around the computer to remind them of good virtual body language, or something important that they want to make sure that they put into the conversation. I was like, just stick it right up there, because nobody else can see it.
You bet. And it's going to be individual for everyone, but a good starting point is always going to be a Post-it note or lock screen on your phone that says the words, what else could be possible here? Or what else could be here? Or what am I missing? What am I not seeing? Just that reminder. It takes a long time to build a new habit when your brain has been so accustomed into sliding into these old behavioral habits and family dynamics. You have to remind yourself. So yes, that physical reminder, a cue of some sort, is amazing. Actually, upstairs in my house, I have a string of Christmas lights that goes up in January and stays up until about April. because I find the dark days of winter make it harder for me to remember possibilities. And so those twinkling lights are my possibility reminder.
Oh, what a great tip. That is so great. So all of those people, when you're driving down the street and you still see people with their Christmas lights up, remember that that's possibilities. Don't be thinking, wow, they need to take their lights down. What are they doing? They're wasting electricity or whatever. I think particularly right now, right? We don't have everybody's talking about feeling closed off and from everybody else, obviously, as well as it's winter time. You know, you live in Ohio, I live in Illinois. There's not very much daylight. We're kind of trapped inside with this snowstorm that we had. So it's really a great time to keep that possibility mindset going and growing, which I love. And I'm sure I would have been having comments and things coming up. But if you're watching the replay, which will be happening with this, and you're wondering why nobody has commented, it seems to be that we still don't have LinkedIn Live. Oh, Lisa, I have a question actually in LinkedIn. How do you get to your live? I'm going to write her back. LinkedIn Live is actually down this morning. I will post the replay. Or the... Oh, love it. Love it.
Do you have a link to Facebook you could send to them? To the Facebook Live?
You know what? I could. Let me do that. You can see on Facebook. She said, good to see. Good to know I'm not crazy. Yep. Nope. You're not crazy. I should probably do a post actually maybe in LinkedIn. Down, everyone. Watch the recording. Okay, well, there we go. You know what this reminds me of? I had this flash when, with our technical difficulties of, there was a show that Kay and I worked on. We were in the studio. Remember when the lights went out? Were you working on that one? Or
yes, and the only question I would have is which show was that? Because it happened so many times.
And the lights went out, and it was near the event. It might have even been the last day or something. So everybody came out, and the actors just started doing the show like in the courtyard. They were on the bricks, and they were just doing their lines for anybody that was there, because we had to empty the theater out because there was a power outage. So yeah, there's always something going on. But that was sort of, I guess, taking advantage of possibilities, right? How do we do this differently? Well, we can't do the show.
Yeah.
The way we would like to. So this is another possibility.
That's a fantastic example of a possibilities mindset. And, you know, you did mention a minute ago how it's winter and the days are shorter and they're darker. And also, you know, we are still in a pandemic. And for a lot of caregivers, that means that they haven't been able to see the person that they are responsible for, or maybe that they have been kind of locked down with that person for 8 months, or 10 months, or 11 months at this point. And so possibilities can feel pretty far away, but just because they're far away doesn't mean they're not there. And I don't want to confuse this with optimism or even positive thinking, and certainly not with gratitude lists. So just to be really clear, the science about positive thinking and gratitude lists is real. Okay, it is no joke. If you can do a gratitude list, if you can find a way to think a positive thought, the likelihood of turning around your own mind chemicals so that you literally have a more positive and happier flood of chemicals is extremely high. The problem with that is that there are a lot of days, and I would even say most days, when I cannot get myself into a positive mindset and I cannot get myself to do a gratitude list. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we are told we're supposed to do it and that there's one way to do it. And look, I'm a perfectionist. And so if I feel like I'm doing something wrong, I'm probably not going to do it. So I don't find that to be very available to me necessarily, positive thinking or gratitude. Now they work. Okay. So my fix has been a possibilities mindset. And what happens for me and my clients is it's almost like a bridge. So I'm stuck in a place where I can't see positivity and maybe I can't see anything else. And so I literally say to myself, what else could be possible here? And if I could just find one other thing that could be, it doesn't even have to be positive. It could be another negative outcome. It doesn't make any difference. If I can just find one other thing, it jumpstarts my brain and opens up those juices so that I can see other possibilities. And I think there's a lot of magic in not forcing myself to see positive things, but in just seeing other things. It opens everything up for me. And I just don't feel guilty anymore that positivity and gratitude lists don't seem to be tools that I can reach for on a regular basis. And this makes it okay because I have another tool that works equally well. It is extremely useful and it works for my clients too. And I just want to make sure that everyone knows that if you can't get to that place of positive thinking, you're not alone and you have another option, and it's possibility thinking.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love that that takes the judgment out of it, because there is this right way that we think, or one thing that gets me all the time, which we will probably be talking a little bit about next week, because next week I want to talk about clarity, because we tend to get this idea that, at least in my business, because body language is interesting to most people, and they tend to want to give me all sorts of course, advice and comments of, oh, have you tried this industry or that industry? Or, oh, you should be working with lawyers, for example, or you should be, what about, doctors? Man, my doctor's bedside manner stinks. Why don't you work with doctors? There's all these well-intentioned possibilities that are coming at you all the time, but then being discerning enough to figure out for your own clarity which possibility that you want to pursue. And I find, and at least you're taking that judgment out of it, like, is this the right choice? Because we can really become paralyzed by.
Yes. And so that comes directly from what we know about how your brain works when it's thinking about stuff. There's really two categories of thinking about stuff. This is being very broad. I'm really simplifying this. But for our purposes today, there's the creative thinking and there's the analytical thinking, and they don't play well together. So when you are, I hate the word brainstorming, but let's just use that for a minute. I like to call it generating ideas. Brainstorming has become kind of its own monster term with a lot of connotations. So when you're trying to generate ideas, if you are also trying to analyze those ideas at the same time, you're actually going to shut down both of those functionalities for the most part. They don't play well together. They don't work well together. So when you need possibilities, when you need ideas, be in ideas. Say, I'm going to let myself come up with 10 ideas, or I'm going to give this group 5 minutes of just coming up with ideas. Nobody's allowed to judge. Nobody's allowed to discern. No one's allowed to analyze. We're just going to come up with these. Nobody's allowed to say, I don't like that, or we already did that. And you can do this with yourself as well as with a group. So I'm going to come up with 10 ideas. And then I'm going to go into discernment, because your brain works best when you let the creative be creative and when you let the analytical happen by itself.
Yeah, great tips, everybody. I certainly hope you're watching the broadcast. It told me to cut off LinkedIn and try to re-add it, so I'm not sure whether it's working again or not.
So many possibilities, but you can go to Facebook.
Really distracted and doing things. It's been I'm still behind the scenes. I don't have that VA yet who's off doing the technical things. We're still a one-stop shop. So I'm going to take a quick look at my notes here, because we had such great chats before, and I want to make sure we cover things. And if this is speaking to you guys out there, I just want to let you know that Kay has started a podcast where she recorded for every single day during the month of January, except for Sundays. So there is a fantastic resource of great information, and you don't, again, it doesn't have, it's not just caregiver types of thing, it's self awareness types of information and things that are fantastic. So I put this, I think.
Thank you. Yes, that is it. You got it.
Do you see it? So Anchor is where she's at, and you can go there and see all of the recordings. And you know that she has this fantastic theater background and has a really soothing, wonderful voice when it comes to listening to her wisdom. And so I encourage everybody to go over there and check those out and follow, or definitely go to her website and sign up for the newsletter. She has a book that she has written, which is also on there. It is geared towards caregivers, but again, so much of this information is universal. I can't imagine that there aren't wonderful things in there for you, because you don't have to only be sandwich generation to apply this information. I come to Kay often for things like, oh, my kids are driving me crazy, because we both have two sons in very similar ages. And so I'll say, what are your kids doing right now during the pandemic? Or are your kids in school, or are they virtual? How are you dealing with this? And there's always great advice coming down the pike. One of the other things that I wanted to make sure that we touched on, because we had this great conversation on the idea of, again, what's happening in that kind of reptilian brain of ours, where we are judging, kind of goes back to that judging and taking us out of possibilities. So when that happens for you, because I know I always bring the body language piece into things, besides, when you stop to take that breath and go, okay, I need some possibilities, to help your brain go there, because it's probably fighting you tooth and nail to look for possibilities. I want you to think of actually opening up and broadening your physical presence, and literally open your mind and take in the world around you. Particularly right now, with everything being virtual and everything being tied to our computers, it is actually impeding our ability to see possibilities, because we're so focused on looking into that camera and keeping that eye contact and making sure that we're smiling and keeping our energy while we're on virtual. And as soon as we turn off our cameras, we go, right? And we're like, oh, I'm so glad to be off this call. Well, during the call, if you need to take that moment and look around the room, because you need to open your brain and your eyes literally to other possibilities, and it will open your focus so that those possibilities have a better chance of landing and actually making it through, if that makes sense. Or if you're being shut down by someone in a meeting, which Kay had a great example of this. If you feel like you're being judged or put down, or something is happening in the moment, rather than your natural reaction is going to also shut down or be defensive or be negative back to them, if you can physically give them the better signal, which is, and maybe you just need to close your mouth, but you can open up your physical presence to kind of show them that you're not shutting down, or that you're not having that effect on them.
So the cognition equivalent of that, and the way to reinforce that with the words that come out of your mouth while you're opening up your body language, which I do believe in. And I have to say, for anyone who's watching this, Allison has helped me become a better facilitator and coach and teacher by helping me with my body language, which I already thought was pretty good. And so did she. And yet it has helped me enormously. So the cognitive way to support that, when you're in a situation where you feel threatened, which is what your lizard brain does, it responds by feeling threatened, and then you do fight or flight or freeze, right? The cognitive way to support that is to ask a question. And I mean a genuine question, and not like, well, don't you think you're great? Right? That is not the kind of question that is going to support open body language and connectivity, coming from that cognitive place. It's to ask a real question. My fallback question always is, can you tell me more about that? Or just tell me more. That is an open, honest, genuine question. It puts me right into curiosity. Curiosity is a fabulous way to re-engage and reconnect even when you are feeling threatened, because curiosity forces your brain to go into that state of cognition, of thinking about things. So get curious and ask a genuine question. Can you tell me more about that? Tell me more. That's going to get you there. And your body language, together with asking a real question, is going to lower the pressure.
Yeah, fantastic tip for all of you leaders out there. And again, it works virtually or in person. One of the possibilities that I keep reiterating over and over and over again is the idea that these signals that we're learning and how we're learning to communicate virtually, those will transfer back to face to face. And if you are thinking that you are tired of virtual and can't wait to get back to the office, remember that all of the energy and all of the connections that you have made virtually can transfer. So don't leave all of that knowledge of the past 11, 12 months behind, but take that with you. And my new program that I should plug is called Beyond the Box, which is literally how are you going beyond this screen back to face, or in person. This is still face to face, but it's like social distancing. It's physical distancing. Anyway, one of my pet peeves through this whole thing is that we call it social distancing. But we do go back when we get back to in person, there was probably still going to be somebody on your screen. So we need to figure out what this new hybrid type of meeting is going to be. We're going to have more people now that we've hired folks from all over the country, now that our networking groups have expanded all over the country, that we're going to be in a position, if you're a trainer, if you're a speaker, if you lead meetings, you're going to be in a position to have people in front of you and people on the screen together. All of the struggles that teachers have been going through with having to be dual purpose is coming to you, business leaders and managers. You don't think you like virtual, but I think it's going to be even harder in a couple months when we're kind of in this weird hybrid. Half people are in the office,
well,
and half of them aren't.
And there's going to be a lot more going on there than just that confusion of some people being on screens and some people being in person, because we're also going to be mixing cultures at that point. So that's something that I see happen a lot with families, with family caregivers, is there are definite cultural expectations of what caregivers do and don't do. But if you translate that into the office, on any given team, you're going to have a number of different people who have different expectations that they bring from their family life, that they bring from their education, that they bring from their culture. Now, what we were used to was having most people, for the most part, living regionally fairly close to one another. And so they all spoke the same sort of cultural language, whether that was body language or expectations about work hours, whether it's okay to drink a cup of coffee in a meeting or not. It was pretty easy to kind of get with the program and be with the culture. Once we have people coming in from all over the world, or even just different areas of the United States or of North America, we are going to find those cultural difficulties all of a sudden are going to become very prominent because they're going to be everywhere. They're almost going to be ubiquitous. And learning the body language and the words, the cognitive skills to be curious rather than offended is going to go a long way towards productivity, towards efficiency, towards success, towards any outcome that you're looking for. That ability to be curious with your body as well as with your words is going to pay off in spades.
That is so great. I can see us needing to have you back for a talk about culture when everybody's back to the office. And I was checking, apparently we have gone live. So I'm going to put your website once more in the chat to see if I can get it to LinkedIn whether it shows up or not on my screen. It's still saying Facebook, and but I checked live and it says we're live on LinkedIn. So I don't know if somebody
I see a comment from LinkedIn.
Oh wait, I just have a note. Somebody says, this is great information to start the day. Thank you, Paige. Glad you found it. If you weren't on the first 15 minutes or so, we weren't actually live. We were we were chatting live on Facebook and YouTube, but LinkedIn wasn't working. So we got LinkedIn to finally connect. But thanks for popping in. This has been a fantastic conversation. I can't thank Kay enough for joining me as my first guest and rolling with the punches today with all of our little technical things. Definitely head over to her website and check out everything. Listen to her podcasts and connect with her if you, she has a huge tool bag, as I'm sure you can tell, of skill sets. And even if you're not necessarily in that caregiver mode, if you don't put yourself in that category, even though we all live there, you can, chat with her on other business problems and things too, because
and it's really it's if you're a family caregiver, and also if you're worried about having different generations in the office, whether you happen to be a family-owned business, and so you're talking about generations of family in the office, which is its whole other animal, or if you're a leader or even a team member and you think you're struggling because there are people of different ages who are struggling to work together, I'm here to tell you, you're right. If you feel in your gut like that's probably going on, it is. And that is my area of expertise for the workplace. So if you want to talk about those generations, I am completely fascinated by the way people of different ages communicate, and also by the stereotypes that we have about one another, which don't tend to be true. That's the problem with stereotypes, is they don't tend to actually be true for any one individual. I would love to talk at any time. I'm completely passionate about this stuff, as I'm sure you can tell.
Right. And she's a great speaker as well. So, bring her in for your, even if they're virtual events, this knowledge needs to get out there. And her perspective is always fresh and really on the money. And I think I'd put in one of my posts on LinkedIn something, if you want to hear straight talk, that's Kay is the best at it. She's not going to beat around the bush with you. She's going to give you the information as it really is.
And I would interrupt and say exactly the same thing is true about Allison. She's not going to pull punches if you need information about body language, especially about your own body language, which, as I say, her work with me really revolutionized how I am in front of a group and with my one-on-one clients. Do not hesitate to reach out. She's going to tell it like it is.
Yeah, that's kind of why we get together. We get along so well. We don't pull any punches. Well, thanks so much, Kay. I think we'll end it here and let you get back to your day as well. But thanks so much for being here, and everybody else, look for the replays. I always chop it down and give you the full version in all sorts of different ways. So thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Allison. Thanks, everybody.